It was a swerve, Austin. It was a swerve all along. What's going on, guys? WWE SummerSlam 2025 Night 1 Saturday is in the books, and the question of the weekend was who was going to walk out of SummerSlam as world champions, and would there be a possible cash-in involved, as there have been all sorts of questions surrounding the Seth Rollins injury and how things are weird about it. So it's been on a lot of fans' radar that he could possibly cash in either tonight or even more so tomorrow, which is what I was pitching for the whole time. I wasn't sure if just doing it tonight would be worth it, considering Seth has already held that title, and going through all of this trouble to work, journalists and backstage staff and wrestlers, and Seth working his own daughter. I wasn't sure if the juice was worth the squeeze, so to speak, and doing that just for Rollins to cash in here maybe wouldn't land the way they were thinking it would, but the way they executed it, I thought was awesome. And I'm thrilled with what we saw. I'm so glad that Rollins, number one, is not injured. I felt like my instincts were telling me the whole injury was legit, but I'm sure as shit happy to be wrong, because Seth Rollins is the focal point, the centerpiece of this entire storyline they have here on Monday Night Raw that's supposed to carry him into the end of this year and into next year. And if Rollins would have been out for all of this for a year, that was really going to screw things up, and they were going to have to make contingency plans. So Rollins coming out here and cashing in on CM Punk, who won, by the way, the World Heavyweight Championship tonight, defeating Gunther in a great match. Gunther got busted open, and Punk beat him clean and won the championship. And they let him celebrate and celebrate and celebrate until finally we get Seth Rollins' music. And then he comes out in his normal outfit, not wrestling gear, his attire. He's on crutches with the leg brace, and Heyman is just holding up the briefcase. And I'm like, oh, are they really doing this? Are they really just going to tease us? And Rollins is just coming out there to remind Punk, hey, you don't know when I'm coming back, but you can guarantee that I'm cashing this thing on you. And then he starts to leave, and I'm like, no, we're not done. He starts to leave, and he stops, and the crutches are going to fall. He extends his arms. The crutches come down. He takes the knee brace off, and he power walks to the ring after Gunther gave CM Punk the fight of his life. Punk took some punishment. He was beaten. He was battered. He was a mess, but he was victorious. And he was kind of easy pickings. And then Rollins comes down, and Punk at least knew enough to attack right away because he knew he was fucked. He at least tried to get the jump on Seth Rollins, but that never allowed Rollins the opportunity to give the referee the briefcase and ring the bell, which means there's no rules yet. So Rollins just beat the hell out of Punk with the briefcase, using it as a weapon. Then he cashes in. Then he stomps CM Punk and wins the championship. And I couldn't be happier. I'm thrilled that Rollins' injury, I guess, is not as serious as we thought, because he is now World Heavyweight Champion again. So Rollins and Gunther now are your two-time World Heavyweight Champions. And I like that he pulled a Drew, and Punk was instrumental in McIntyre losing, remember, at WrestleMania 40 to Damian Priest. He had a big hand in that, so this is, kind of karma. And Punk now did win a world championship again, but he only held it for about 5 minutes, and that's what they're calling it, I think, on TV. They're calling it a 5-minute title run for Seth Rollins, for CM Punk. Sorry, I'm still reeling from the big swerve we got here. But this is great. Now we know what they're going to be doing on Monday Night Raw, and, Rollins and Punk, and that storyline is going to continue. And I feel like now we can go into tomorrow to watch Cody and Cena without this damn briefcase hanging over our heads, and us wondering if we're going to get it there. So my big question going into this, and one of the reasons why I didn't pick CM Punk in my predictions, by the way, I got 2 matches wrong tonight. I picked Punk to lose, and I picked Jade Cargill to win. Those are the only 2 matches on the show that I got wrong in my predictions. But one of the reasons why I didn't predict Punk was because I feel like Cody's got a really good chance of winning tomorrow, and I wasn't sure, Punk and Cody both being crowned world champions 24 hours apart. I almost thought that was like too much at once type of thing. So I wasn't sure, but Rollins is a whole different story, because this is all part of the ongoing Rollins storyline that we've been a part of. So him winning, I feel like, is different, because it's just going to lead right into his next big match that he's going to have now, obviously, against CM Punk. And then Cody can be over on SmackDown and be doing whatever he's going to be doing as champion or with Cena or whatever. So I think the outcome and the finish The swerve at the end kind of saved night one. I think this was kind of like mediocre. Based on the matches, nothing really stood out. I got to give Jelly Roll, Randy Orton, and Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre credit. That was pretty good, especially at the end, better than I thought it would be. And all the matches were solid, even the tag match and whatnot. But maybe the weakest one was Cross and Zayn. But overall, it was still kind of, I guess, mediocre. And as we were going through the show, we were realizing how quickly they were rolling through everything. By the time we were 2 hours in, there was only 2 matches left. So I was like, well, shit. This show is either going to be a 3-hour show or we're going to get an extra match at the end. So that's what we got. And we had Seth Rollins coming out at the end of that and cashing in on CM Punk. And I loved it. I loved it. Thought it was awesome. So, yeah, I'm going to read some of your comments here, and we will be reviewing the show. I'm just making a quick little post here on the social medias. You know how it goes. But, man, what do you think our main events for WrestleMania will be now? Are we looking at Punk and Sami, perhaps? Do you think Punk is going to get the title away from Seth before WrestleMania, or what? I'm curious. A lot of people have Cena retaining, and I think I'm being a little bit too dismissive of that, admittedly. He could retain, especially with what we saw last night in his promo. That's fishy, and it could be something he's using to swerve Cody again, but I also think that might be tying into what Cody said previously about how he doesn't flinch, and the only time he did flinch was at WrestleMania 41. So if Cena is trying to trick Cody, he thinks the only way he's going to beat Cody in this match is to try to pull something on him similar to what he did at WrestleMania. Cody this time isn't going to flinch and see it coming. That's what I think they're planting for tomorrow. So I think tomorrow when Cena reveals that it was all bullshit and he's still a dirty heel, Cody's going to see it coming, and this time he's not going to flinch, and he's going to win the championship. That's what I feel like they were setting up last night. But hell, I was wrong about a couple of matches tonight too, so don't listen to me. But for night one, I feel like that main event and the 2 title changes that we saw made it an okay show. That's for sure. Let's read some of your thoughts real quick, and then we will get going here on our review, and we will talk about this match by match. SummerSlam 2013 all over again. Thanks for the $2, Chris. Some were, he's faking it. I love it. I love it. Hey, got the internet talking, and it perked us up, that's for sure. And look at some of these grades. We got B's, A minuses, 8.5, B minus, 9.5, 9. Lots of good grades here. The Juliet, appreciate the $10 from you. My thoughts, the initial injury was real, but once they realized it wasn't as bad as they feared, they milked it for all it was worth, and I feel the cash-in at SummerSlam was the original plan. Yeah, and that's the thing that's weird about the whole thing is if you go back and watch what they did on Saturday night's main event, the way that match ended early and LA Knight's demeanor and kind of how they goofed up the time at the end, they wouldn't intentionally do that to themselves. It just seems weird, especially when you're on NBC, national TV, much bigger, kind of audience. You would think maybe other eyeballs on the show that wouldn't necessarily be there kind of thing. And that's just not the type of mistakes or whatnot that you want to do on a show like that. So it just felt like something they wouldn't do purposely. So your belief there is probably somewhat accurate, and I'm excited to see what the stories about this say when we start reading some follow-ups tomorrow. Yeah, good grades there. Just checking if there's any more super chats to get. Yeah, I haven't seen any like C's or C minuses yet. Like, what would you guys grade the show if we didn't get the cash in? What if it was just Punk? Would it drop you to a C plus? Or would you still keep it a B? Because Punk winning was still a great moment. That still would have made a great thumbnail and, been a good moment for him. But Rollins wound up coming in, and I didn't even anticipate it. I didn't even have anything ready for him, to throw up on an overlay here or something with the belt. But I did have it in the back of my mind, and we talked about it a lot. I just didn't think that it was going to happen for a number of reasons. But it did, and it's always fun when cash-ins happen, especially in main events, especially for the championship, and especially in front of crowds the size of what we had here in MetLife Stadium. So, wow. Night one is in the books. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is your WWE SummerSlam Saturday 2025 review. We will talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match and then the second World Heavyweight Championship match that we had tonight. But we are going to start with what opened the show, and it is something that we talked about in our predictions on Thursday, that Roman Reigns either opens or closes. So I felt like the tag match definitely would open here, and it did. It was Roman Reigns and Jey Uso taking on Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now, during the entrances here, Jey Uso did his thing through the crowd. Then Roman came out. And when Heyman and Breaker and Reed came out, Reed has got, of course, because he jacked Roman's Jordans on Monday night, he's wearing them around his neck. And I don't know if there was something wrong with my screen, as I also later in the main event thought I saw Gunther have a wardrobe malfunction, and I was freaking out, and a bunch of you were in the chat were like, dude, there's nothing wrong with his trunks. So I don't know what the fuck I saw there. But same thing with Reed. He's coming out, and I'm like, what is going on with those shoes? Do they belong to a moose? I mean, the two shoes side by side were matched the width of Reed's chest. I'm like, what kind of shoes are these? So he's out there with the shoes. And in my predictions, honestly, this match was pretty easy to predict based on what we saw on Raw. It was such a glorious beatdown of Jey Uso and Roman Reigns that there was no other way this match was going to go other than Roman and Jey winning. And a lot of fans on Monday, I saw a lot of the same opinions over and over on social media saying, you know, Roman and Jey need to lose again. They need to keep this momentum going to prove what badasses they are. And I was like, I totally agree. But that's not what WWE is going to do. That's not them. This is Roman Reigns we're talking about. Are none of you paying attention to the product you're watching? Because if you are, you wouldn't be predicting Breaker and Reed to win. You would predict Roman and Jey. They did. I wasn't surprised. It did turn out to be Bronson Reed taking the pin, not Braun Breaker, so I think that's good. Roman also, a big part of the match was him kind of taking the bullet for Jey Uso. Because on Monday night, Paul Heyman was doing his best to try to sow some seeds of doubt into Jey Uso, talking about the past history of Roman Reigns and Jey and how abusive Roman used to be back in the Bloodline days, even some of the matches they used to have against each other. So Roman's job here was to prove that what Jey Uso was saying is true. You know, like, I'm no longer a lackey. I'm a former world champion. I'm on his level. You know, he's not here. We're not here to, neither of us are going to push the other around at all. And it's a completely different dynamic now. And I think Roman was out and set to prove that in this match, which he did. And that was a big part of what led to the finish with Roman and Jey Uso getting the win. So I was perfectly fine with that. It doesn't mean anything for Reed and Breaker, especially if you were going to see a Seth Rollins cash in later, which we would wind up seeing. And plus, you know, Braun Breaker is destined for such great things. Nothing is going to be able to slow him down. There's no such thing as burying this man. So I know a lot of the children on social media, I'm sure, said that. They were buried. No, they weren't. Everything's going to be fine with Braun Breaker. He's still going to be the man. He's still going to be the future. There is no loss on a pay-per-view to a multi-time icon world champion that's going to do anything to slow him down. It would not matter, and it does not matter. He's taking losses from Jey Uso to Sami Zayn. It's not going to do anything to slow him down. Breaker can lose. He's fine. He's too good not to be fine. And I can't wait until the day they finally pull the trigger on him. I just hope they don't wait as long as we've been waiting for them to put Montez Ford in a singles run either. So as long as they strike when the opportunity is right, Breaker is going to be an enormous deal in the company, and he's going to be the next guy. You can just see it. Sometimes you can just tell with that shit, you know? Next matchup was the Women's Tag Team Championships. It was R&R, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. They are taking on Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. I struggled to predict this one a little bit, but based on Charlotte and Alexa's dynamic and the storyline, there's really no reason to really drag your feet here with this. I understand that, maybe you want to see their team and alliance grow and evolve a little bit more before you pull the trigger for the tag team titles, but this is the women's tag team titles. Doesn't matter. You know, we've already seen, even during their entrances, the relationship between Charlotte and Alexa seems to be a fun one, and doesn't seem to be rooted in too much animosity, at least anymore. They're warming up to each other. This is a big show. It gives Charlotte something to do. I think if they were to lose here and then chase the titles longer, why? What does that accomplish? Just do it here. Big win for both. Alexa just came back, after a couple of years off, and she hasn't done much of anything. So tag team championship win here with Charlotte was the way I thought they should go, and they did. There was a miscommunication there where Charlotte got nailed by Alexa Bliss, and then Alexa, I forgot who she had. I think it was Roxanne, I guess, in her sister Abigail. And then Charlotte comes in the ring, and Charlotte, the camera kind of focuses on Charlotte as if she's going to come hit Alexa Bliss or attack her for revenge on the miscommunication spot. But instead, Charlotte comes in with the kick to take out Raquel, allowing Alexa to hit the finish on Roxanne and get the win. And Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair win the tag team titles, and I'm happy with that. I'm glad they won the titles because I think that gives Charlotte an opportunity to continue on this quest that she feels like she might be on to try to repair some of the reputation she has with the fans, not hogging up the spotlight, not constantly getting world titles every 5 fucking seconds, actually doing something else, playing off someone, another character on television, developing a relationship, a storyline with them. Charlotte, regardless if she's a heel or a babyface or what year it is, she is the exact same person in everything she does. Her storylines are never interesting. Nothing she does is ever interesting. So any sort of a relationship she can develop on screen with someone else is only going to benefit her. So I like this. Plus, they're kind of cute together, the way they kind of annoy each other, but playfully. And that, I think, can help, maybe even humanize Charlotte in the fans' eyes a little bit. Plus, gets her away from the world title. Makes fans maybe a little bit more interested when she's on TV instead of immediately frantically reaching for the remote. It's more of she's a little more tolerable, and she's not a channel changer anymore. Now you don't care. She's on TV. She's part of something that's sometimes kind of fun to watch. Plus, they might develop some chemistry as a tag team. They're working pretty well together, and you never know. Sky's the limit to those two. They could be the next Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. Who knows? And eventually, maybe there will be the inevitable split, or there is going to be, of course, because there always is. But when that time comes, I also think it might be kind of cool to tie in some of Alexa's darker side into that. Start freaking out Charlotte with the Lily doll or whatever. Get Charlotte kind of involved in, some of that stuff, and maybe have Alexa use that to get in her head, or use it when they break up, or use it in the feud or whatever. But that dark side of Alexa, I think, would be fun to see come out in this at some point down the road as well, just because how that would clash with, Charlotte's personality, who's not really known to be a creature of the night. That all might be fun. After Charlotte and Alexa won the tag team titles, we had Karrion Kross taking on Sami Zayn. So, of course, this was just about Kross wanting Sami to say that he's right. Kross kind of came out first. I could be reading way into it, but there wasn't a whole lot of body language there to him and Scarlett, and it feels like that might be it. That might be it for Kross. The last couple of updates we've gotten on him, there hasn't been any sort of official word from him or WWE or anybody in the know that feels like he has re-signed a new WWE contract, which apparently is up in August. Might have been up on August 1st, and WWE gave him a 2-day payday and a SummerSlam payday to stick around and job out to Sami. We don't know. But it's also possible that he has quietly re-signed with WWE some time ago, and we just haven't found out yet. But based on the match, again, what was the point of putting this match on SummerSlam? With all the other matches you could have put on here, you did one you just did 2 weeks ago on Raw. It was boring as all fuck, and this one wasn't much better. And the second, that weak-ass exploder into the corner that just looks so shitty. I'm like, what are they doing here? And then Sami Zayn just beat him again. So, what are you going to do with Kross now? And we were theorizing about this on the watch-along. I'm like, I don't know anything. Anything I say is just pure, random, baseless speculation. But Triple H likes Kross, but maybe WWE just can't keep him around. There's really no reason for them to keep him around. Hey, we're not going to bring you back. We're going to let your contract expire. But I like you. We would like to do business again. I'm not going to do the Triple H voice for the whole thing. But I like you. Maybe we can do business again. but we're going to let your contract expire on October 1st. But let me book you in SummerSlam. Let me pay you an extra couple of days to stick around to extend your contract 48 hours. You get a SummerSlam match, SummerSlam payday on your way out the door. And then hang tight. Maybe I can call you back in a year. Or maybe next year after Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble and then goes on to win the championship at WrestleMania, he can be confronted by Cross in the ring and Sami gives him credit for all this. I don't know. But based on the match, the short nature of the match, the predictable finish with Sami winning, you got to wonder what the hell Cross is even going to do now. He didn't come out, him and Scarlett, with the most energy I've ever seen in my life. It feels like he's done. But somebody brought up in the chat tonight that they were plugging the hell out of his audiobook on the pre-show. Maybe that's another thing that Triple H is doing. I'll plug the shit out of your book. I'll give you a SummerSlam payday, an extra couple days on your contract, and I will plug your book. Maybe that was in exchange, for Cross extending his contract. Plug my audiobook. I don't know. We're just wondering. We're just shooting the shit here. Who knows? But based on the match, based on the finish, I feel like that could be it for Karrion Kross. And if it is, all the best to him. Like, seriously. Maybe he goes to TNA. He might just go there. Although I don't think he had the best... split with them either. And I think he even declined the opportunity to go to AEW once. So I don't know what he would do if he wasn't in WWE, but we will find out. Hopefully we'll find out more. And if he's on Raw on Monday, then shit, that means he must be sticking around and he's not going anywhere. But this might be it for him. We will see. Here's one that surprised me. WWE Women's Championship was up next. Tiffany Stratton defending against Jade Cargill. And I talked about this in the predictions. We were talking about it during the watch-along. I said that Jade Cargill just feels like she's on the road to the championship. This is the whole reason WWE signed her. They signed her to be one of their top stars, to see if they can mold her into a world championship caliber talent. And she's been in the company now nearly a couple of years. She's had a few matches. She's won a couple of WrestleMania matches. And this year she won at WrestleMania, and she won the Queen of the Ring. Usually, when stuff like this starts happening, you are going to end that road by winning the championship. And so, some people pointed out, in the chat, well, that's kind of predictable. So I got Tiffany winning. And I think I said predictable is what they're going for here. It just feels like for Jade to hit a roadblock now, after winning all of these matches to kind of get the opportunity, not to mention the feud she had with Naomi that she won. So she's been on a roll. It feels like she should win here. Tiffany's had an 8-month run, healthy enough for me anyway. So she can drop it here. And I had Jade winning. And holy shit, we were wrong, or I was wrong, because not only did Tiffany Stratton win, but she won clean. Jade had a near fall. She did hit the Jaded and then rolled back for the pin, but kind of overextended on it. And Tiffany's legs went into the ropes, so there was no 3 count. But that's all well within the rules. And then Jade went for what I thought was going to be the finish. She went for like a middle rope or top rope Jaded, in which Tiffany countered and was able to roll through it or whatever, wound up hitting the big moonsault on Jade and pinned her to retain the championship. And I was happy to be wrong about that because that was a good match. I like Tiffany. That tells me that WWE has a lot of confidence in her too, because she won the title, back in January, and then she beat Charlotte at WrestleMania. Now she takes down Jade Cargill, someone who appeared to be on the road to winning a world championship and got derailed there at the very end. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if this is more a tribute to the confidence they have in Tiffany or to the lack of confidence they might have in Jade. Because knowing WWE's kind of formula the way we do, all signs were pointing to Jade walking away with the title here and Tiffany being ripe. And it was a clean loss too, which makes me wonder how they can really extend this. What's the point now of booking a rematch with Jade winning at the next one? It wasn't like there was some weirdness or they didn't really do anything in the match that would really give Jade grounds for an automatic rematch or anything like that. So it almost makes me think they're both going to move on to something else, but that would make this whole situation a one and done. Is that what this is? I'd like to see the, I'd like to see the possibility of, well, that's not going to happen, but Tiffany and Naomi somehow switching spots. I don't know. Like, I don't know what Jade does now. I feel like Jade might find her way over to Monday Night Raw, because I'm trying to think what we would see from Jade Cargill on SmackDown next. I feel like she's probably going to have to remain in the title picture. So what does that mean? She just gets another match against Jade? Or do they chuck someone else in and we get a triple threat next time? Or does Bianca come back into the mix? And maybe Bianca winds up beating Tiffany for the title, and then Jade beats Bianca for it? Is it something like that? Or what? But it's rare for WWE to have two main roster talents that are on TV every week booked in a one-off match, And we might have actually seen that tonight with Punk and Gunther, because I think Punk's focus and Gunther's both are going to be on Seth Rollins. So we might be looking at a triple thready, coming up in Paris. It might be Gunther, Punk, and Rollins in Paris. I wouldn't be surprised. But, with Tiffany and Jade, it would feel weird if it was a one and done, But the way the match was, it was such a clean loss. I don't know. I don't know what Jade does, but we probably will get a rematch, and maybe that's where Jade wins. Maybe that's part of Tiffany winning tonight. We already have 2 world championships scheduled in the main event. Punk is going to win the title and Rollins are going to win the title. Maybe they feel like that would overshadow Jade's win. More would be talking about that, but not necessarily, that's a Raw angle. But, if Cody's also scheduled to win the championship tomorrow, that would be 3 world championship changes that could potentially drown out the headlines of Jade's. Maybe that's the thought process behind it. So if Jade still wins the championship and she does so at a later date, maybe the point was to give her a little bit more of her own stage there for fans to process the title change without having to process 4 other ones at the same time. Just a thought. But anyway, congrats to Tiffany on pretty awesome match beating Jade Cargill. I was happy to be wrong about that one. Here's a match that wasn't bad. Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul taking on Jelly Roll and Randy Orton. I liked this. Kind of started slow and boring, and I wasn't too much into it, but Jelly Roll was getting in the ring, and he was getting physical. And then later on, they went for the big spot on the outside that I had called earlier. I'm like, Jelly Roll needs to go through a table courtesy of Logan Paul jumping off the top rope. They got to do that spot. So they start tearing up the tables on the outside of the ring, and they grab Jelly Roll, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here? Is Paul going to jump and land on the table after Jelly Roll moves, or is Jelly Roll going to really take this bump? So they put Jelly on the table, and he's immediately, like the hot dog, just laying just like that. And I'm like, oh, he's bracing for the bump. And he stood like that for like 30 seconds. So you knew that the bump was going to happen. You knew he wasn't going to roll out of the way. I was thinking Orton would come by in the last minute, pull him out of the way. But no, Jelly Roll took the splash from Logan Paul, who dives off the top rope. Excuse me. Sorry. Lands on Jelly. The table breaks. Jelly kind of backflips into the bump. And what I like about these new announce tables is that when they break, they kind of shatter in places. So we saw like broken plexiglass and broken bits of wood. It just looks a little bit more destructive, which I like, but props to Jelly for taking that bump. And then after that, the rest of it was, it was really predictable. So all of the referees and the medical staff rush over to Jelly Roll, of course, and they're helping him up, and he's a mess, of course, and I'm like, okay, they're going to do the thing where they're walking him off, and then he's going to turn around. It's Foley at Hell in a Cell 98 when they're wheeling him out in the stretcher, and he gets up, and he's pissed, and he climbs back up to the top of the cage. That's what they're doing, and holy shit, did they telegraph this. I swear it took them 30 minutes to do this, for them to attend to Jelly Roll, get him up to his feet, help him around the ringside area to start walking him to the back. Camera kept cutting back to him, back to the ring where Randy Orton's getting worked over, back to Jelly, back to Randy. I'm like, my God, can you make this any more obvious? And then, of course, he's so hurt and he doesn't know. And then finally he gets up and he's pissed and he stomps back up to the apron, and Jelly Roll is now going to get the hot tag. And what I thought was going to happen was Jelly Roll was going to get the hot tag put a couple of moves on Logan Paul, eat a Claymore, and get pinned. I was basically right. It was just a little bit longer than that. Choke slam Logan Paul and got some offense in. And I think Randy Orton even got back involved. And then it was, I think it was Jelly Roll ate the Claymore. And then Randy came in, but Logan, and took out Drew McIntyre, I think. But then Logan posted Randy and jumped on Jelly Roll to get the pin. So that was the pin that I wanted. I wanted Logan pinning Jelly, and that's what we got. And that match was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I didn't think it would be bad because Jelly Roll's been training, and I thought they would set up something pretty fun. I could have done without the whole, carrying him away only for him to return because it was so obvious what they were doing. But overall, like the match and the bumps and everything that they did was good. It was great. And Drew McIntyre made it because apparently he was stuck in England all week with some passport issues, and his appearance in the match was in jeopardy, apparently. So he made it. All was right with the world, and the match was really good. So props to all four guys there. And that only left us with our main event, and we knew that this was going to be an early end for the show, unless we get something extra. And WWE only having a 3-hour SummerSlam was tough for me to believe. And this match started about 35 past the hour. So it was like going to be just over 3 hours, if anything. Like I said, unless we got an extra match at the end. So now it's CM Punk versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship here. Punk coming out in awesome looking colors there, kind of like a powder blue and white type of deal. And the match was really good. I was worried about the quality of the match in the ring. And what I liked about it is it was 99% in the ring. They didn't leave the ring until the very end. They spilled out briefly. Gunther stood up on the table and Punk swept his leg out from under him. But prior to that, they didn't leave the ring. I think they got on the apron a couple times, but they were never on the floor. And I thought that was kind of cool, unless I missed an early spot where they spilled out there and I didn't see it or I wasn't paying attention. But Punk was doing a good job kind of karate blocking the chops at first, but wound up eating a ton of them. And he was getting absolutely pulverized by Gunther, who was really dominating Punk for the majority of this match, playing with his food a little bit, toying with him. And we've seen Gunther tell that story before. And when he's done that, it has costed him. So Punk just continues to survive some flurries of offense that Gunther is shutting down at every pass. But, you could see that Punk is slowly wearing on Gunther. And it's a matter of endurance. It's a matter of Punk going into this match knowing that he's going to be physically overmatched. It's going to be about him being able to survive Gunther and be able to outlast him and out-tough him. That was going to be the only way. Frustrate Gunther. What do I have to do to beat him? So even though Gunther was spending lots of time toying with Punk, he was also having a hell of a time putting him away. And Punk was kicking out, and the more that was happening, the more frustrated Gunther was growing. Until they get to the outside of the ring. Like I said, they didn't go to the outside of the ring at all until right near the end. And Gunther is toying with CM Punk again. Punk is down on the outside, and Gunther gets up on the ring, and he starts gloating and taunting the audience. Punk gets up, kind of similar to what he did to McIntyre at WrestleMania 40 by taking his legs out from under him on the table. Does the same thing to Gunther, but Gunther goes face first into the table and then rolls underneath it. And then I caught a glimpse of Gunther, some blood on his leg under the table. I'm like, oh, he's blading. And he came up and he was just covered in blood. They were trying to play it off like it might have been a broken nose, but he clearly maybe overbladed a little bit there, and he had a lot of blood streaming down his face. And then Punk immediately capitalized on that, was just hitting him, punching him right square in the nose over and over. And I was like, this is where you lock in the Anaconda Vice, and the visual of Gunther, being choked out. But he never did. Gunther was able to lock him in the sleeper, but Punk fought out again and just kept fighting and finally found himself in GTS position and lifts up an extremely bloody Gunther and nails him with the GTS. But Gunther kind of comes back and he's on his feet, but he's wobbly. Punk picks him up again, hits him with a second GTS. Down goes Gunther, 1, 2, 3, and CM Punk wins the World Heavyweight Championship. And The crowd goes wild. Punk is celebrating, and I'm thinking that could be it. I'm still waiting for the possibility of a cash in here, but Punk is celebrating, and I'm happy for him. And he's won, and the match wasn't even bad. And now Punk has won a WWE World Championship again. We never thought we would see this day. He's a world champion for the first time in 12 and a half years. When was the last time CM Punk was world champion in WWE? Royal Rumble 2013, right? So we're talking over 12 and a half years since he's been a champion in WWE. That's crazy, son. I mean, we went from, the pipe bomb days to this. That's the gap that's in between. Holy crap, was this YouTube channel in its infancy back then. Man, oh man. So Punk has won the world championship, and we're watching. I now get off the YouTube chat. I don't want to see la 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 la. I don't want you guys to spoil anything. I'm just waiting. I'm watching Punk celebrate. I'm thinking that's the end, so I start going into, making my Punk thumbnail here for the review, and then the music hits. Out comes Seth Rollins with Paul Heyman. I'm like, it's going to happen. But then Rollins comes out in crutches with Paul Heyman behind him with the briefcase. And I'm like, oh, they're just going to tease us? They're just going to remind Punk that, hey, one day Rollins is going to come back and cash in and you're not going to see it coming. And then Rollins, and I'm not convinced. I'm like, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't tickle the fans and then blue ball them like that. Hell no. And then Rollins turns around to start walking away. And I'm like, I'm calling it. I'm like, he's going to stop and drop the crutches. He stops, extends his arms, crutches fall down. He turns around, starts ripping off the knee brace, and here he comes down to the ring. Punk tries to get the jump on him, attacks him right when he gets in the ring, which turned out to actually be a mistake because Rollins was able to fight him off. And since the bell hasn't rung, there's no rules, and Rollins just beats the hell out of him with the briefcase, then hands that very briefcase that just got dented on the body, face, and head, neck, chest, breast, and head of CM Punk. He hands it over to the referee, who then rings the bell. Punk eats a curb stomp, and Rollins pins him to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. And a fantastic finish to night one of SummerSlam. Like I said, I had my doubts on the injury and whether or not it would be worth it for him to come in and cash in this way on Saturday. But as we experienced it, I thought it was great. I thought it was well done. It was fun. And Rollins, once again, winning world title, not only by cashing in, but also in MetLife. No, he didn't. Yeah, he won in MetLife. He didn't successfully. No, he retained at MetLife. He retained it. Did he retain or beat Brock at MetLife at WrestleMania 35? I think he won the title. Yeah, he won the title. So he won the title at WrestleMania 35, and he won the title again here. So that's 2 world championships, won in MetLife. And that wife of his, I think won one there too, didn't she? Hell yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, he was retained. He retained against Brock? I thought he won at WrestleMania 35. Anyway, doesn't matter. But big moments for Rollins. And somebody said, what's his, how many titles does this make for Seth? I have no clue. Is his 7th title overall, perhaps? Thank you, Julia. Yeah, so he won the title, right, at WrestleMania 35. Yeah. It was the first match on the show. Because I remember, wasn't Hogan out there? I think I remember Hogan being out there. And then, Heyman comes stomping out, right? See, I remember some things. Heyman comes stomping out, and he, wants to do the match right then because Becky's going to main event. So they open with it, and Rollins wins the title. Him and Becky bookend that whole thing. And I think that was, what was that, a 14-and-a-half-hour WrestleMania? That's the last time WrestleMania was one night. It was super long back then. So, yeah. What a SummerSlam, night one. Great stuff. Happy to see that Seth Rollins is not injured. Because if he was, that would have been a bummer. And now he's back, and I'll be curious to read what the story was. Was he really not injured at all, or was the injury legit? And then it turned out that he was fine? I don't know. And what the hell was going on there at Saturday night's main event? What were they doing? Why did that match come off that way? And why did it screw up what happened to Gunther? That's really the image you want to project to NBC audience? We don't know what the fuck we're doing? that's why I had a hard time believing that this thing was a swerve. I'm like, at least what happened on Saturday night's main event was legit. I don't know about the rest of it, but that felt real. And if it comes out that that wasn't real and that was all staged on purpose, that was terribly done. I just don't think it was really done well, because you fucked everything up and you screwed over Goldberg on his retirement. Not that I give a shit. But yeah. Good stuff. Right on. All right, man. Well, that is a wrap on night one. We only had to stream for 4 hours to get that one done. Pretty crazy. That was great. I guess Pollock's source was right about the injury. Yeah, I don't know who the first person was to sniff out that, hey, maybe this is a little bit kabuki-ish. But, yeah. Seth is now on the post show. Okay, interesting. All right, well, I think I'm going to give that a look then and watch some of the post show. And I still have the sun out, so I still have daylight left before my day is over. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out for the watch along tonight and for this post show review. We're going to be doing all again tomorrow, so make sure you join us tomorrow night for night 2, and it might be even more interesting than tonight was. And the link to that is already up on the channel right now. And we'll be boogieing again tomorrow night. So thank you again for watching, guys. Appreciate you being here, and I will be catching you tomorrow night for part 2. Peace.